Hello, I'm Cindy Arenberg-Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County. Welcome to another edition of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children. There is no arguing that a hungry child can't focus on learning and is likely to suffer lifelong negative health, social, and financial consequences. The CSC has long been at the forefront of ensuring the community is educated about the resources that can help prevent childhood hunger in Broward, supports partnerships that best leverage those resources, and funds initiatives that ensure children are fed. Let's talk about some of these initiatives and discuss how to more effectively expand services with Dr. Melanie Geddes, Chair of the South Florida Hunger Coalition and President and CEO of LifeNet for Families, Mark Adler, Executive Director of Meals on Wheels of South Florida, and Michael Farver, President and CEO of the South Florida Hunger Coalition. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Michael, we've been in the trenches together actually since 2001.
That's exactly correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about where the South Florida Hunger Coalition came from?
Again, it came out of I think a recognition of the need, as you said. Hungry children can't learn, hungry children perform poorly. And the Coordinating Council of Broward and other organizations got together and approached the Children's Services Council and said, we need help. And they created the Million Meals Committee under your guidance and leadership. And that organization focused on the issue of hunger, trying to identify its sources, the amount of it, what we were dealing with, because we were really in the dark at that time as far as how serious an issue it was.
In fact, the reason it was called the Million Meals Committee was because we thought if we could just raise enough money or enough donations to provide 1 million meals in the community, that would solve the problem.
That would solve the problem.
The first year, I think we hit 3 million meals.
And the problem is still here.
And the problem is still there and has gotten even bigger.
And so from that point, we moved forward. In 2011, we broke off and became our own 501c3 as the South Florida Hunger Coalition. And our role at that point tended to be more along the lines of as a convener, as a resource, working with other organizations, pantries, and faith-based groups around the issue of hunger. And then that progressed again as we saw the fact that there are still hungry kids out there. There are kids that need to be fed. We, as an organization, made a decision to start focusing on adding direct programming into the mix and actually physically making sure that we could help feed kids.
And I want to go back a little bit, sorry to interrupt you, but that point that you made about the coordination was really important to establish first, because one of the things you hear all the time is, oh, the agencies aren't working together, there's probably lots of food out there, but it's not getting to the people, why don't folks talk to each other? And one of the beauties of the Million Meals, now South Florida Hunger Coalition, is the way you all work together. Melanie is the chair for a number of years now, right?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about how you all share information and make sure that you're working together, and then we'll get into some of the new initiatives that have come up, because I think the audience needs to understand that it really is a coordinated effort.
Yes, well, you know, we realize that people that are a part of this coalition are receiving information in a variety of ways. So we really have upped our game in terms of social media. And so we make sure that we put messages out through Facebook posts and through our website so that people can get information when they are accessing it through social media. And then we have a lot of people who are a part of our roundtable or forum setting where we have all of the different pantry providers come together like on a quarterly basis and meet with us and share information that's going to be helpful about how to access food or how to improve their services or how to collaborate. In one such forum, we were able to help people determine how they were going to get food at a discounted rate by working with a provider that people didn't have access to. And so we try to find ways that we can connect all of the pieces. And those are the two biggest ways. And through we use email and internet services and mailings and flyers, handouts. And then a big part of it is word of mouth, because when you provide services in the community, the people who you're helping tell other people.
One of the things I love is that among those that do feeding, it hasn't been a competitive frenzy, I guess, if you will. The level of collaboration and we have some of this, do you need it? Or we can share and realize that that's most beneficial because we keep our eye on feeding people and not on who's got what. And Mark, you're a great example of how a resource that was in the community has made themselves available, if you will, and become, although your mission was around seniors, you've become integral in this child feeding world.
Exactly, yeah. And that was one of the big aha moments when the South Florida Hunger Coalition, Meals on Wheels has been a member of the South Florida Hunger Coalition since the beginning. However, we never were, we focused on seniors, and that wasn't necessarily what the focus of the coalition was. But when it came to actually addressing childhood hunger, especially over the summer, along with the Children's Services Council and the Housing Authority and Florida Impact, we all kind of came to the table together and said, well, Meals on Wheels is kind of the expert at bringing meals to people who need it, so why don't we look at what we can do on childhood hunger? And as a matter of fact, that was 5 years ago.
Wow.
And flash forward, 2 years after that, we actually revised our mission statement to be non-senior specific, and it's ending hunger across all ages with kindness, dignity, and compassion.
That is fantastic. Which leads us back, Michael, to where you were going before, which is now the South Florida Hunger Coalition over the last 5 or so years really has turned a little bit more to creating initiatives and not just connecting the dots.
Right. There are a lot of ways to approach the issue of hunger. One of the things that I feel, and I think that my board supports me on this, is that we can't be everything to everyone. But what we can do and what we try to do is try to identify what I call holes in the social safety net, tears, and address those issues. Pick our battles that can make a difference, but are big enough to make a difference, small enough to win. And they're there. They're there from something as simple as the fact that there are in Broward County and in Palm Beach County approximately 4,000 homeless students in the school population, attending school, that are homeless. Now, during the week, they're having the benefit of the federal nutrition programs, school breakfast, lunch, after-school snack, the expanded supper program they're working on. But when they leave on Friday, those homeless kids are basically looking at a 69-hour gap where the question of them, what they're going to be fed or if they're going to be fed is real. So one of the programs we've identified and worked to develop is a weekend nutrition supplement program directed specifically at homeless students. So you take something like that. Or we have an amazing program that, with the support of the Children's Services Council, we've been able to grow from 1 school to now 5 schools this year, which is the mobile school pantry program. Zena Zen, who runs that, is an amazing young woman, and they literally provide thousands of pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables once a month in 5 Title I schools where all the vast majority of the kids are on free or reduced lunch because of their income level or their poverty or their circumstance. She brings in a room full, a gymnasium full at times of fresh fruits and vegetables. And these people walk out with 40 pounds, 50 pounds of every month. So it's a way to, again, address specific needs and find a way you can, hit that without, you can't do it for everybody yet.
Right.
But we're trying.
Right. I'm with you. Those high impact places that a little bit of money or a little bit of creativity can really make a difference. And the summer feeding program, going back to that, is one of those. That partnership with the housing authorities, and that not only brings food, but also activities to the children, educational activities to prevent summer slide.
And that was one of the beauties of having the kids there in the housing authorities that were stuck there in food deserts with no access to healthy food over the summer. And these are kids that rely on the school lunch program for what may be the only nutritious meal they have during a day. And in the summer, they were stuck. So that's why we all put our heads together, and we thought, well, we've got these kids here between lunch and snack. We've got this great opportunity to give enrichment activities, so to prevent the summer slide, like you mentioned. And through partnerships with law enforcement, hospital districts, libraries, schools, the list goes on. There's 38 partners that are a part of the summer feeding program partnership. And so over the last 5 years, we've grown that, and the enrichment activities that we were able to provide included providing glasses to kids who knows what they were doing the rest of the year if they couldn't see. Last summer, we provided 120 pairs of glasses to kids in the 10 locations that we were doing these super summer sites.
Yay, Dr. Cherry.
With Dr. Cherry, yes, yes. We provided, with the Children's Services Council and Swim Central, drowning prevention classes, taught kids how to swim. Over 4,000 kids have learned how to swim in the last 2 years, which is one of the leading causes of death in children under the age of 4 in South Florida. We were able to offer a Colgate dental exam. The Colgate bus came out, and kids who had never been to the dentist before were able to learn how to brush their teeth and care for their teeth, and how important it was. The list goes on and on. We had so many community partners, and it was really a testimony to what we can all do when we do collaborate.
It's really, it makes me sad and happy at the same time. You know, I wish it wasn't needed, but I'm so glad that we can all come together and make it possible. And often we, this Children's Services Council funds programs, and then we try to make sure that children are fed. In this case, feeding was the driver, but we make sure that the partners come together to provide the services. And it was so great that it caught the attention of the national organization, Share Our Strength. So they focused on some of our local initiatives, especially through its project, No Kid Hungry, which was launched in 2006. Recently, they were in Broward, among other locations in Florida, highlighting our summer feeding program. Let's take a look.
To be very honest, what I think this program has done for our community is opened our parents up a little bit about the situation of being hungry. A lot of people just kind of kept to themselves. So what we have done with this program is shine the light on the hunger.
I actually heard it from a few parents. They tell a kid while they're sitting there eating, they'll say, you better eat that because that might be it for the day. So it helps. And a lot of them look for that.
And imagine you done work 9 hours on a minimum wage salary. Now you got to come home to 4 kids, want you to cook, want to make sure the lights are on, want to make sure the water's on, making sure they got shoes on their feet. That's a struggle. That's a struggle. And I think it helps give the parents a lift, not dependency, a lift.
I think one of the misconceptions out there that's kind of addressed in this is that the people who are hungry are people who aren't working, who aren't trying to take care of their families, that they're just lazy. But we know that that's not the case. As they referenced in their, they're working minimum wage jobs, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs. Melanie, you, in addition to chairing the South Florida Hunger Coalition, you also run an agency that deals a lot directly with these clients. Can you talk a little bit about the profile of the people that you serve?
Certainly. You're right, Cindy. When people think about people who are hungry, they have this face that looks like somebody may stand in a corner and hold a sign. But there are people who need food in every aspect, every walk of life. And it never gets old to me. It always touches me. It always moves me. I find that there are people who are coming to LifeNet for food who are working and who are struggling every day. Housing costs here in Broward are through the roof, and incomes are not keeping up. So the wages aren't growing. And so although they're working every day, they're not able to keep up with the cost. So something has to give. And we're able to help with food. And to see people come to LifeNet with their children and how happy the children are about food is amazing. But we also have a mobile pantry program where we take food to sites. And we did that after seeing that a lot of people couldn't get to LifeNet. And so one of those such sites is Holy Cross Hospital. And Holy Cross Hospital distributes food, and it is also given to a lot of the people who work there. A lot of their frontline staff rely on the food that comes from LifeNet for families. The same thing with a lot of the local churches. We're at St. Ambrose, we're at the Faith Center, we're at the Coral Springs Family Success Center. And when people think of certain neighborhoods, they think not this neighborhood. But yes, there are people in every community who are struggling and sometimes in silence and alone trying to figure it out. Last year alone, we gave out over 21,000 food boxes to people right here in Broward County, and not one of those in that number are people who are homeless.
Wow. Yeah, there's pockets everywhere, and housing prices that we are the most cost-burdened housing area in the country. And people don't realize that and what an impact. And as you said, something then has to go, and often it's food. One of the other partners that I think we would be remiss if, although they're not here today, that I think we need to talk about is Harvest Drive and what they do in November and then now throughout the year. Michael, can you speak to that?
I haven't worked directly with them on the programming, but again, it takes a village, and all these different programs where you've got the Harvest Drive. The one thing I find interesting is that I remind people of is that we do a lot of work around the holidays, and which is great. But hunger knows no holiday, and the opportunities that exist throughout the year to continue those kind of programs and that kind of outreach is really, really important.
And I think that's what they found. The Harvest Drive started by a mom and her child who wanted to help feed people at Thanksgiving, and then enlisted the young people. It's really a youth-driven project where the youth collect first food, and then it was toys and clothes, and would distribute them at the holidays. And now it's year-round. They're stocking food pantries at the schools. And so it's wonderful. I just love seeing young people help other young people and understand that connection to the community.
Well, we see an awful lot of that, of youth working as volunteers that are committed to that. I think that is a sea change. I think that the young people today are more aware, they're more socially engaged and involved, and they see this as something that they can make a difference in. And we welcome that in the programs that we run and other programs that are focusing on hunger.
Well, and that's with our programs as well. We have a large number of families that volunteer to serve seniors, not just during the Thanksgiving holidays and Christmas with the gift boxes, but also every month, weekly, on a weekend, we have our Meals for Companion Pets program. And our youngest volunteer in that program is 6 years old, and our most experienced volunteer in that program is 99. And we've got everything in between. And it's so wonderful to see the young people engaged in volunteering and their families teaching them what volunteering is all about.
So I was just talking to someone who said, at the holidays, I wanted to volunteer to do the food giveaway, and when I tried, everything was full. But they should not despair, because all year you need volunteers, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And now, Hands on Broward is a great way to sign up to volunteer any time of the year. Do you use them to get your volunteers, or do you like them to come to you directly?
Multiple sources. I mean, Hands on Broward is a great source.
Okay, so for those of you out there who want to volunteer in the hunger world, you should go to www.handsonbroward.org and look for those volunteer opportunities. Don't wait for the holidays, because they need you all year round. Okay, just had to get that plug in there. I want to make sure that people understand that they can help all year. And then, Melanie, before you talked about the opportunity to sort of access food that all of the providers can access, and Feeding South Florida and Farm Share would be one of those sources, right? Can you talk a little bit about them and how you can access that food?
Well, yes. Well, Feeding South Florida has a large group of providers that they provide assistance to in terms of food, and so I believe that the best way to do that is to go to their website, and then they'd be able to access food that way. But with the direct services that we are all looking at, just those people who are trying to get help, we're all kind of doing the same thing. So Feeding South Florida Hunger Coalition, Children's Services Council, everybody's supporting each other in trying to serve more than 265,000 food insecure people in our county. That's just Broward County alone. And so when you
265,000 food insecure
people who are food insecure,
Wow.
absolutely. That's 14% of the population. And so when you're looking at that kind of number, there's no one group that can do it. And that's why collaboration and working together is so important. And so we recognize the strengths of the organizations like a Feeding South Florida, and they're able to connect and help those people who we're unable to reach. And they recognize our strengths, and so they support us. They support LifeNet for Families, and they are willing to support the South Florida Hunger Coalition based on whatever it is we would need for them to do. And I like that part of working together, in that you can call on each other if you need to, but then you can put your head down, and we all know that we're doing what we need to do to change the game in terms of what people are experiencing in the food insecure world.
Absolutely. Well, and I think just for those who may be confused, because I've tossed out all these different organization names, the South Florida Hunger Coalition is an umbrella in which you invite all of the different folks to participate, whether they're a direct service provider, they're a supplier of food, whatever. That was the start, as you talked about before. And then you have the Farm Share and Feeding South Florida, what do you call those?
Food banks.
Food banks, right.
And they, for the most part, supply those of you who are the direct service folks. So for a provider of food, they may want to look to the food bank, where they have to buy food, but it at a much cheaper price. And then for those in the public who need to access food, they would be more likely to sign up with LifeNet or Feeding Meals on Wheels, or go to the mobile pantries, et cetera.
Right. Well, regrettably, there's more than enough hunger to go around for all of us, and everyone has a role to play. The larger organizations like Feeding South Florida, Farm Share, which is a statewide organization that does a lot of gleaning and a lot of relationships with farmers, where they provide a huge amount of fresh fruits and vegetables, have become partners with us, joined the Hunger Coalition just in the last year, and have been, and again, another player in this mix. And we keep saying it, but collaboration is what it's all about. It's the only way we're going to be able to make a change, systemic change, happen. We can't be siloed. We can't be worried about just what we're doing. We can only do it when we do it together.
And for those out there who may want to help, also, was there not, back of my mind, I'm remembering a legislative change a few years ago about food from restaurants that
Yes.
could be donated. And so if somebody out there has an event or food, what do they do with that? Where should they go to donate?
Well, there's a growing group, the law that basically absolves or removes responsibility for food that is, let's say, left over from a convention that's then transported. That we had actually at one of our forums, we brought in an organization that is, they're relatively new, but their primary focus is that's all they're going to be doing. They're going to do food recovery from the cruise ships, from the convention centers, and build these relationships with members of our coalition and pantries and faith-based groups, and take advantage of that. And they've grown exponentially just in the last year. So then there's going to be more that are going to pop up and do that. It's another example of a need that someone finds a way to address it, and then it grows and it grows, and it has more and more impact on the circumstances.
That's
and Feeding
fantastic.
South Florida does that also. So, and one of the, like, we benefit from that at LifeNet for Families, that partnership, because we also have a hot meal kitchen. So you're able to then pick up food from a local restaurant. And yes, we're able to then share that food with the people who are coming for meals. At LifeNet, over 200 people come for a meal every day. Some of those are children, some of them are women. It's just, it's not specific to any particular population, whoever's hungry. But in that type of a program, yeah, oftentimes people will feel like, oh, I don't want to give any food. We get food from Memorial Hospital as well. And what I find is that it's just important to make sure that when you're picking it up, that you understand that, okay, you want to make sure that you get it to its proper location as fast as possible. If it's hot, you want to keep it hot. If it's cold, you want to keep it cold so that it doesn't go bad in transport.
That's a great tip, because I'm sure, I mean, I've been to a lot of parties or been on cruises where there's just so much food left over. And how can you throw it away when there's so many people in our community that are going hungry? Thank you all. This was really, really helpful. Childhood hunger is an issue that can and must be eradicated. In Broward, as you've heard, we're doing everything possible to ensure that it is, through some of the programs and initiatives we've highlighted here, and we've also highlighted some of the ways that you yourself can help. I hope you'll take advantage of them. I want to thank Dr. Melanie Geddes, Mark Adler, and Michael Farver for all they're doing on the front lines of this issue and for talking to us about it today. I've been your host, Cindy Arenberg-Seltzer. For this or any other episode of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children, go to our website, www.cscbroward.org, where you can access our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and remember to join us next time on Future First, Focus on Broward's Children.